So we've just come to the beach this morning. Hubby is going for a surf, even though a shark alarm sliding just went off. But he's mad, and I'm keeping an eye out. But not that I can do anything. I'm gonna run on after him. It's fine. I think it's all gone now. So yeah, it was nice to have a quick dip in the sea, even though the water can be a little bit hard to navigate in with my hip, but he was there, so it was fine. Actually, it was really nice. So now I'm just going to relax. We haven't plopped ourselves too far away from where we have to walk back up. Like, I find walking on sand such a bitch with my hip replacement. It's just so unstable, I think, is the problem with it. Because of the tendonitis in my hip, when if I just go on a slightly, like if I trip or I catch my leg on a bad concrete path or walk on unstable sand, it catches my tendonitis and it shoots me with bruising pain. So I'm just going to relax while he goes off and does the exercise for both of us. So after I went to the beach yesterday, I thought that this would be a really good video to explain what it's like to have a hip replacement. I do take it very seriously. It's something that you've been given that isn't natural anymore. It's not it's a machine. It doesn't rejuvenate itself like a normal joint does. So what I have found that I have always done is I picture what the hip is physically doing inside my body. So if I was to jump, I picture the joint actually going in with an impact, and to me that's damage. And it's not like you can go in and fix it like a mechanic does to a car every other year, or you service it every year. So by not running and jumping, I found that the hip wasn't then going through that impact. It does feel a little weird to have a hip replacement. It is a bone replacement, so it's not like you feel your bones, I guess. Like, I know you do, but it's not like every day you go through life going, oh, I can feel my bones in my arms and my legs. So I guess the best way to describe it is that there is like a numb or like a sort of vacant feeling in my hip joint. I had my hip replacement done when I was 19 years old. I have snow skied ever since I was 3 years old. Every year, without fail. I think I had 1 year off for my higher school certificate, but every year I skied. I was a black run skier, and I said to my surgeon, who was also a snow skier as well, but I said to him, is this going to stop my chances in skiing? And he said, look, as long as you don't go onto black runs, as long as you don't fall, and as long as you stay off the moguls, like the hitting of the moguls, the impact of the moguls, he goes, I have no issue with it. Pretty much you can ski, but you can't fall. So what I did is I got my skis and I had the bindings for my ski boots. I had the left hip, which is the hip that I had my hip replaced. I had that made just a little bit looser because I was gonna fall. It was gonna happen, and it did. And when I would fall, my left ski would just unclip like that. It wouldn't unclip in normal skiing or normal turning, but as soon as I fell, it would just unclip, and that foot was then not going to be taken along a ride with a ski attached to it, and then ultimately possibly dislocating my hip. So that saved my hip so many times when I was skiing. So that was done in 2001 when I had my hip replacement. The last time I went skiing was in 2011, and that was just before I had to have my hip redone. I haven't gone back just due to I don't know, life really, but that it is something I plan on doing, is to get back on the slopes. In saying that, I don't do any other sports. I don't run, I don't jump, I don't play soccer anymore, I don't play netball anymore. And I guess that would be really hard for people to understand or swallow when they're making the decision of having to go and have a hip replacement. I can't comment on anybody else's situation. All I know is that I picture that hip going through impact, and that wears it down, and I'm not even 35 yet, and I've already had 2 hip replacements on the same hip. That playing sports is now no longer an important thing for me to do, because the longevity of my hip is more important. It is now, whilst I don't do any activity to the level I used to, I now enjoy walking. I swim sometimes. I shouldn't say that I do actually, but you can. It's definitely one of the downsides of having a hip replacement is the lack of physicality. Going for a bike ride's okay, but if you're a cyclist, then obviously training every day, even doing spin classes and stuff at the gym is something I won't do. So I guess that's one of the downsides to having a hip replacement. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm lucky that I have no tumour and I have a hip replacement, and that's just one of the payments you have to make in order to be cured of something horrible. Another thing with having a hip replacement is going through airport scanners. It is so funny. I used to travel all over the world for my previous employment. I used to run events all over the world, and I would go through even here in Australia, everywhere, like Dubai, Malaysia, the US, and you go through those scanners, and every single time I would go off, it would ring the alarm bells. And if it didn't, I would sit there and go, well, what's wrong with your scanning system? Why aren't you going off? I have a metal joint in my hip. You've seen how big the x-rays look. I had my surgeon give me a card that said that I had a hip replacement and the type of hip that it was. So if you needed to, the amount of times I've been pulled to the side, I've always been wanded. And I've been put into rooms in Dubai where I've been completely stripped and patted down. That only happened once, but hey, that's their security system, and that's totally fine with me that they're doing their job in making sure that that's all hunky-dory. So that's pretty funny. And then telling people as well, oh, left hip, and they're like, you're too young. It's pretty cool. I have been told that being female and having pregnancy, I've not been there yet. It's something that I hope to have happen in my life. I have been told that by carrying a pregnancy, that at the 6-month mark, I'm going to need, it's going to be a little bit harder to get around, I've been told. So I guess I can't really comment too much than that. I've heard so many people have babies after they've had their hip replaced. So I'll let you know, I guess, when that happens as to how it is to have your hip replaced and being pregnant at the same time. As I was saying yesterday at the beach, the unstable ground is something that's really annoying. It's not something that's a problem. I very rarely, I don't do beach runs for exercise or anything like that. But if I find that there's unstable ground, that's where I think, because I have my tendonitis, that flares up a little bit, or it catches. So yeah, I think that's something you're constantly aware of when you're walking, is like, all right, so just make sure if you roll your ankle, you kind of like, my hip goes with it, and it's not like the hip gets damaged or hurt, but you feel it. You're very much aware of your hip all the time. I think it's now become second nature, but I wonder what it would be like to subconsciously not have to worry about your hip. But I guess it's like anything. That's just what I have to do in my life. Oh, another thing that I'm going to say it hasn't bothered me, but I think it has, is wearing a bikini at the beach. I'm not image conscious at all. I absolutely don't care about the scars. I guess that's why the blog is called I Wear My Scars. My scars do not wear me. And so I'll say that it doesn't bother me, but I guess it's good to mention that when I do go to the beach, especially my scar now, it is so hideous. It's been opened 7 times. So on the last time, the scar just buckled, I think. It's caved in. There's lots of scar tissue that hasn't been able to heal properly. Like it's fine. It's just deformed. It just doesn't look good. And wearing a bikini, whilst I wear a bikini, you saw me yesterday at the beach, I was wearing a bikini. So many people look. It's like, take a picture, guys, it'll last longer. However, it's something that you have to be aware of, you're going to go through. And the more I wear it, and the more I put it out there, and the more people look, I have a freaking awesome story. I am okay. I'm living. I'm happy. I am radiating confidence. I like the fact that you're looking at me, and I don't know what you're thinking, poor me, or ooh, look at that, but whatever it is, like, it just doesn't bother me. Like, it really doesn't get to me. And I think, when I'm with all my friends at the beach and stuff, they don't ever say anything about it, of course, but I think the fact that I don't hide it is something that they probably appreciate a lot more. Everyone's got scars. Mine just happens to be bigger. Whatever. So I guess at the end of the day, the point is that having a hip replacement is because you've had to go through something. You've had to have something fixed. Your body wasn't happy. I bet you're no longer in pain anymore if you have had one, and you're going to be pain-free when you do have one, if everything obviously goes to plan. I mean, every surgery has its complications if that happens for you, but generally if you have a standard hip replacement and you don't have any complications, you're going to be pain-free. And that's just what you're going through, and the next person next to you is dealing with cancer. Or yesterday at the beach, a grandmother with her daughter, I think it was, and she was going to the beach with her family. She had no leg below the thigh, and she was walking down on the beach with crutches, and that was another moment where I went, I have my legs. That woman is still at the beach and she doesn't have a leg below her thigh bone. Or a story when I was leaving hospital with my hip replacement. This was actually the best eye opener. When I was leaving the hospital when I had my hip replaced, I had a trial drug due to the bone density, and when I left, I was in a wheelchair because of the way the trial drug made me feel. I discharged myself a day earlier than I probably should have. And so when Mum and Dad were picking me up at the front of the hospital, I had to be taken down in a wheelchair because I was quite lightheaded. And there was a person in a wheelchair next to me. And I looked over because we were the two people in the wheelchairs at the front of the hospital. And this guy had no legs on both of his legs. He had no legs below his knees. He'd been amputated, or he'd had a birth defect, or I don't know what his story was, but I was going to stand up out of my wheelchair to put myself in that car. He wasn't. And that was the aha moment of, you need to understand, Belinda, that you've been through so much and that's okay, and no one's going to take that away from you, and you're going to have to grieve through this. But there are so many other people going through their own problems, and some of them are worse than yours, some of them aren't. But at the end of the day, everyone's got their own thing. So that's how I look at it. I look at telling my story with, it's a cool story, and not many people have the same story, and that's why I tell it the way I do. So I wish you all the best with your decision of whether you have a hip replacement or not. I find that I got out of pain at a young age, and even though I go into a hip replacement at a young age, which then may have a longer lifespan to get through, I have lived my younger part of my life pain-free, and to me that's all that's important. I don't want to wait until I'm 60 to, not in my case I couldn't have, but I hear a lot of people who say, oh no, I'm too young for hip replacement, I'm going to wait. I can't comment on each of those people's situations, but why go through the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years in chronic pain, not being able to live your life to its fullest anyway, when you could actually have your joint replaced before much more damage is done and get on with your life, just with a few different restrictions. All about adapting to change. So I'm going to leave you on that note, and I will look forward to seeing you in the next video.